What's up YouTube, Lambdaman here, and welcome back to the Raintime. It's been a little while since I've sat down and played this game, but we're just gonna hop right into it. After you guys hit that like and subscribe button, I'll wait. Okay, let's go. Don't remember which file it was. Yeah, okay, it's the last one here. So if I remember where we left off, which I don't, I'll remember in a minute. Maybe it was the sickening air that hung in my room, or the realization that it was finally time to unenroll from the university, that mind-killing institution that spirals around truth in an endless dance of death. But after 3 lonely weeks of hiding in my room, I returned to Bremersburg. It's as if the number of tanning studios has only increased during my absence. Through a shop window I discern a group of finely dressed men smoking hookah, and the sight arouses a reassuring revulsion in me, as it proves that during my absence the city has transformed into something that is essentially foreign to me. There's a tension hanging in the air, as if it could start raining any minute. There's a hair. There we go, I got it. "I'm carbon neutral," is written in green lettering on the back of a passing trolley bus. Oh boy. I can see the passengers packed tightly together, fighting for elbow room in the belly of the beast. In an attempt to find out what time it is, I mechanically take my phone out from my pocket. But before I've even registered its lifeless display, I remember that the battery has died more than 2 weeks ago. You let your phone be dead for that long? Brother, you need to get your life together, dude. That's yikes. The only reason I still carry the thing around is that I feel naked without its weight resting securely against my outer thigh. You know what? Same, dude. Same. Occasionally I'm still startled by phantom tremors, a sudden shiver cascading through my loins as if it were vibrating in my pocket. That happens to other people other than me? I thought that was just me. Huh. The more you know. Fortunately, it's an increasingly rare occurrence. A parking meter. 2:32. I've been awake for 15 hours. Same. After a while, I find myself lost in the gracious revolutions of a curling willow that's growing in a gable garden. I absorb each of its branches individually before stepping backwards in order to behold the tree in all its otherworldly beauty. I can see it all so clearly now. The familiar haze is gone. I haven't had alcohol since finishing the last of my old gull for breakfast. I'm handling withdrawal remarkably well. A traffic light turns to red, and the traffic that runs south over the inner ring drips to a tense halt. The driver of the black Peugeot next to me has left his engine running, filling the street with dark blue smoke. His exhaust gases make my eyes water. I gasp for air, but this only causes my lungs to fill with more of the toxic fumes. And it feels like the city is penetrating me, stretching out into the depths of my respiratory system, making me into an extension of itself. I cough and leave the inner ring as quickly as possible. Same. I hate the city, dude. But even as I pass through the alleyways, more than half an hour later, it still feels like something immeasurably great has been deep inside of me. What? What is it, though? Oh, people. 2 girls are coming my way. One's pretty in a light pink sweater. The other's plain. You describe a woman as plain? Dang. Their sweet perfumes are intoxicating to me. As they walk by, they suddenly start giggling between themselves, and there's something about their laughter that leaves me with the impression that it's me they're making fun of. I can feel my pace growing uncertain, and I'm reminded of a thought that I came up with once, but disregarded at the time. Suppose there is a human child that is raised by wolves. I was raised by wolves. No. Now suppose that child is never found by civilization, so that it always has to remain with the pack. What happens to that child? Does it grow into one of his fellow wolves, or does he find out after a while that he's fundamentally different? I pause for a second, because I want to hold on to the thought. I'm near the square, and might be distracted when I reach it. Of course, it's not about external differences, because everyone knows that wolves have sharper teeth and a better sense of smell than humans. But what happens to the child internally? Does he learn to behave like a wolf? To talk like a wolf? Does he learn to think like a wolf? If a person has no peers to mirror himself to, how will he ever know whether he is human or wolf? Is there something inalienably human about us all, that always rises to the surface even in total isolation? I'd say that sounds like an interesting science experiment, but that would be horrible. Because if that child ever found out, like, once it got used to being a wolf, like, if it found out that there was, like, the human race, and that it was actually a human, there'd be no possible way for it to readjust. Like, I guess it could try, but, like, there's no way to translate from, like, one language, like, from a language in, like, English to freaking wolf speak. Because they talk with, like, a bunch of, like, little slight movements in their face. Okay, either way. The girls are gone now, out of sight. Good. They're making fun of me? Get out of here. Now that the holidays are over, the square leaves a deserted impression, gaping in the middle of the city like a swollen abscess. My fears have been unfounded. Because the stench of cars and perfume is still hanging in my nostrils, I entertain the thought of returning to Rybury. But I won't. In the end, as it isn't better in any way. Rybury is connected to the city through a 3-mile pipeline that pumps around noxious fumes 24 hours a day. In an infallible rhythm of 58 explosions per second. The rhythm controls everything, the streets, the houses, even my lungs, wherever I may wander. Huh. I stopped by the liquor store to purchase a bottle of Tanqueray. Okay. Anything else? Do you stop by anywhere else? A flight of pigeons flitters through the shopping street, the sound of their wings reminiscent of a huge timepiece that's slowly set in motion. Since I've made up my mind to unenroll, I head towards the university quarter. The chorus of the latest hit by Mother Band is blasting from a clothing store nearby. Mother Band? I don't think I've ever heard of them. Slaves to our reality, victims of mortality, the lead singer keeps mumbling in a monotone voice. Slaves to our reality, victims of mortality. Sounds like something Billie Eilish would write. I laugh at its stupidity. Wow, I should not have said that. I'm gonna get canceled now. Well, it was fun while it lasted. There's something off about pop songs, no matter how meaningful their lyrics try to be. The nagging 4/4 signature always makes them sound tacky. We become spoiled children, ruminating disinterestedly on our shallow existence. The weak excuse for a conversation I had with Lars on New Year's Eve feels like a lifetime ago. I resign myself to the fact that I may never have to face him again. In the end, I'm probably more of a poet than a philosopher. No longer do I feel the need to conjure earth-shattering paradigms, because if you look closely, you'll see there's a congruence in everything around us. At first I wanted to lead nations, but now I'd be content to even help one person find their way. The students of this city are like laborers. At night they drink away the doctrines they've internalized during the daytime, because their implications sound entirely too alienating to be true. And their lecturers are the teachers of oblivion. The more thoroughly their students prove they haven't understood the first thing of their coursework, the higher their marks, and the more striking the letters of recommendation that accompany their diplomas. The only letter of recommendation I need is one stating that I have learned all, and therefore nothing. You can address it to my ruination, Professor. The rock song turns into a baby blasting from the shop next door, which in turn melts seamlessly into some serious-sounding hip-hop from the jeans store opposite the street. All tunes have the same rhythm of the flapping pigeons and the waves of the sea. I realize that a 4/4 signature beat in music must resound continuously through existence, pulling all of life around with it, everywhere in the world, into dark depths of the ocean. This is getting too philosophical for me. Like, yes, everything's connected, but wow. Hey, we're at the library. We're closing in a minute, he says kindly. Who is he? Oh, it's you. Oh, fine. But I can squeeze you in if you're quick. It's the same guy I spoke to last time, but for some reason he doesn't seem to recognize me. I've come to unenroll, I say. You can do that online. One click and you're rid of us for good. I don't have internet access at the moment, I reply. Can't we just do it here? The office is brightly lit with fluorescent lights, and it is situated in a corner of the Faculty of Literature, overlooking a narrow courtyard where the students can smoke. But no one smokes anymore. Wish I had the guts, he remarks comfortingly as he looks me up in the system. I see you still have a few library fees. Oh boy. It's a total of 6... Oh boy. It's a total of $637.95. Do you want to pay that right now? You can also do it in installments. Send me an invoice, I mutter. He nods understandingly and fidgets about on his computer for a bit. Well, that's that, he concludes, and then pauses for a moment. Say, the university is curious about what motivates students to deregister prematurely. Is it okay if we email you a short questionnaire? I think you can win something. I don't have internet, I remind him. He looks fidgety, as if confused. Well, try enrolling for another major next year, he starts. You can probably transfer some of your points. I don't have any points, I interrupt him with a smile. But what are you going to do? He asks me, no longer capable of concealing his morbid curiosity. Just go out and look for a job? A subtle pride washes over me as I relish in the thought that I can't have worked more than 5 combined hours in my life. However, I don't feel like feeding his pity. Nah, I've made it big, built my own company, a few people working under me now. It's running pretty well. For a moment he doesn't seem to believe me, but then a smile appears on his face, and he claps his hand a few times in slow motion. It's great, man. So what line of business are you in? Oh, just e-commerce. We sell underwear for overweight people. I smile. He pauses. I thought you said you didn't have internet. I'm becoming careless. The games are starting to bore me. A huge weight falls off my shoulders as I leave the university quarter, like I finally silenced a small, gnawing part of my conscience, of which nothing remains other than a slight residing disappointment, a lingering trace of sadness that becomes more diluted with every sip I take. It's actually just water. Got some ice. It's growing darker. The pollution from the cars doesn't bother me anymore, and it's a euphoric high that I walk along the ring road. The endless stream of tests and obligations that has made up my life so far has finally come to an abrupt end. It feels as though existence itself has gained new quality. There's an immediate necessity within me now. I have nothing to do, nowhere to go. I could either persist here for a second or remain forever. I'm a nuclear bomb, lying in a silo, that might lie dormant till the end of days, but equally has the potential to wreak apocalyptic devastation at less than a moment's notice. I kick a piece of plastic onto the road, and a motorist honks at me furiously. I'm disappointed he won't even come out of his car. Coward. I've never really fought in my life. Although it's getting late, I'm starting to feel fit, a little drunk even, but the kind of drunk that gets you riled up. I'll have to eat something soon to keep me going. I bend off towards the harbor. So, I thought you were going through withdrawal because you stopped drinking alcohol, but I guess you're drinking again, so back to the old ways. The city is steeped in a mysterious aura, as if the streets are full of new possibilities. and adventures hidden behind every lamppost. I'm no longer annoyed by the prying eyes of the passerbys. I take my bottle from its bag and set it to my lips. The bittersweet spice rushes down my throat, casting a golden sheen over my eyes that sands off the sharp edges. And as I slip through the narrow bottle back into my inner pocket, the catenary wires of the trolley buses suddenly take up all my attention, causing me to unintentionally drop the empty bag to the street. Okay, can we just talk about the fact that this man's liver has to be, like, gone? The amount that he drinks, freaking, like, can't you get, like, what's it called? There's something it does to your liver, and I don't remember what it's called, but it's not good. I'm fascinated by the sharpness with which the wires are spun across the twilight sky. They're drawn so meticulously, splitting up the vibrant clouds like cheese wire, and I'm so completely overcome by emotion that I turn back to pick up the plastic bag I just dropped. Oh, I thought it was a paper bag. The screeching of seagulls resounds in the distance. When I arrive in the harbor, I see them circling out above an elderly man who's sprinkling out bread. I walk up to the breakwater. A fresh evening wind is blowing towards me. No ships to be seen. Hey, old man. How you doing over there? The sky is shining bright orange now. The sun's floating just above the horizon, as if it had always been hanging there. I look over to the wind farm. The turbines are colored pitch black by the backlight from the dying sun. Their blades are spinning harmlessly, peacefully, like a giant bowling pin. I avert my eyes in an attempt to save the image to memory. And for a while I stand and watch the sun crawl closer towards the horizon, until eventually it disappears, millimeter by millimeter beneath the earth. Then the tears come to my eyes, and I let out a shiver that cascades down my back, enclosing my entire body. The screams of the gulls grow fainter and fainter, and I hear a noise in the distance. No. I've seen enough horror movies to know what happens next. No. Leave. Lost in thought, I reach a large E-Mart. It must be past dinner time now. I feel a slight reluctance to enter the store, but proceed anyway, as everything here closes at 9, and I have no idea when that will be. I'm gonna have Doki Doki all over again. I'm greeted at the door by a tottering vagrant who tries to sell me a newspaper. He's intoxicated, visibly drunk, something that pleases me greatly. And I'm not in the least bit hungry. With great effort, I try to find something I'm able to eat, but the matter seems of such triviality that I don't even want to acknowledge it. Eventually, I pick up a few products, quite random, and proceed towards checkout. It's nothing special. A bag of chips, some potato salad, a roll of custard creams, processed cheese. Lying on the conveyor belt, they create an unreal impression, as if they aren't food at all, but extraterrestrial plastic objects. As I leave the store, the vagrant addresses me. "Hey man, how'd you do that? How'd you do in there?" he roars enthusiastically. "Want a paper?" But there's something off about the man. It's like he's acting more drunk than he actually is. He's putting on a show to sell more newspapers. "Are you drunk?" I ask. "No man, just happy. How are you doing? I'm Eddie." He holds out his hand, but I decline to shake it. I do, however, hand him my bag of groceries. "Are you hungry, Eddie?" I ask. "You can have these if you want." First he casts me a suspicious glance, but then he takes the bag and starts evaluating its contents. "You know what, I'm not really that hungry," he replies after a while, "but I'll have those cookies." He fishes the packet of custard creams from the bag and hands the rest back to me. I nod, but as I'm about to walk away, I suddenly realize the whole absurdity of the situation. I turn around and grab the packet from his hands. "No, Eddie, that's not how it works," I shout at him. "Whoa. I'm offering you this food because you're hungry. So you're not just taking the creams from my bag. If you were really hungry, you'd take everything. It's all or nothing. You can't cherry-pick your offerings." Put the custard creams back with the other groceries. At first, Eddie seems taken aback, but then a cocky, aggravated expression appears on his weathered face. "You can keep those cookies, loser," he yells, his voice breaking. "Just give me some money. I'm not an animal." I turn my back on him. "If If you're not an animal, you're not having cookies. I carry the bag along for 2 more blocks until its weight starts pulling me down. Then I dump everything into a gray garbage can before changing my mind and saving the pack of custard creams. You like these custard creams, dude. I take one out and place it on my tongue, where it slowly dissolves into a mush of dough and cream, till I swallow it disgustedly. The rest of the packet I cast amidst a group of seagulls who tear into it delightedly. In the blink of an eye they reduce it to crumbs, which a few seconds later are swept away in a whirlwind of wings when I throw myself upon them. I head southwards, hoping to find a street that leads back to the inner ring. The apartment buildings here don't feel familiar anymore. I see a canal filled with ink-black water. There isn't even any duckweed there. Alright, hold on, guys. I'm taking this hat off. It bothers me too much. I can't see my monitor up here, so I'm done. There we go. Wristwatches and pop music. Through their iron cadence, they have hammered into us the notion that everything happens simultaneously, that we all live at the same time, and that the world is a giant soap opera in which millions of individuals exist concurrently. But what nonsense that is, to get all warm and fuzzy thinking that people are currently living other lives than I am, as if the here and the now isn't enough. People drift in and out of my life like supporting characters in some kind of epic poem. I wonder what happens if I cast them all aside, shut everything and everyone out until I'm the only one left. There's a tough task ahead, one that I'll have to take care of all by myself. I played the friendly eccentric for far too long. I have to take my responsibility, put my words into action. Rows of apartment buildings, there seem to be no end. The fishermen of Hornerdam must have sailed there, a few meters above where I'm walking. It's strange how easily people bridge spatial distance when creating a bond of community, while far more trivial constructs like time are deemed insurmountable. We feel related to our countrymen who live miles away from us, but we forget our own ancestors. I owe my life to those that came before me. Their blood still flows through my veins, albeit in diluted form. I show more resemblance to them, probably than the people that dwelled there in this day and age. How I long to return to a time when people were a little more pure. Oh. It's amazing how philosophical this game actually gets. It's like it goes from just like a little bit of like a funny moment to just like really just a deep, sometimes dark, and like just inner monologue. I love it. In 20 years' time, this will all be fields. I love bread, but we don't get it often. We had potatoes this morning. The sun's reflecting on the water. I can see the island looming in the distance. It takes a while before we get there. It always takes longer than I remembered. We sail a boat without an engine. It's an old boat. We don't have money for a new one. And it's no use anyway. 20 years that this will all be fields. Then we'll all become farmers. It smells of rosin. Water hits the prow of the ship. Today was a good day for fishing. We still have debt to pay off. My father doesn't talk about money much, but I think he's worried. He's always silent during fishing trips. 2 of us aren't enough to man the boat, actually, but we don't have any more boys at home, and sometimes we hardly catch enough fish to sell. My uncle sails with my cousin Lambert. Lambert is older than me, but my father is the strongest. That's why we sail together. So it's like 2 middle people, 2 outside people. In 3 years' time, my little brother will be old enough to come along, but he might have to stay in school. When he grows up, there won't be any fishermen left. In 20 years' time, this will all be fields. Many are registering to work on the dam. I might too when I'm old enough. They're looking for strong young men. My father doesn't talk about it, but he's glad there'll at least be work later. There's nothing you can do, he says. Those matters aren't for us to decide. They're going to get their way sooner or later. If they drain the sea, then everything's gone. It better be to sell the cutter now and move to one of the new polders. My father's slaving away with the boom. We really need another pair of hands on deck. A crowd of gulls is trailing our ship, hungry for treats. We'll be entering the port soon. These are wonderful moments with the sun shining on my arms. There isn't really much to do. I breathe the fresh sea air deep into my lungs. It's the scent of fish, the scent of life. We've been fishing on the sea for so long, it's impossible to imagine it not being here. What will happen to our island? Will it become a mountain rising out above the meadows? I wonder if we'll slowly watch the water drain away, or if it'll just be gone one morning. And what will happen, what will the seabed look like when it's all open? Could you walk from here to Amsterdam? The fish auction is looming in the distance. I look at the waves roaring between me and the shore. Soon it won't be a sea of water that lies here, but a sea of golden grain and waving wheat and rustling corn. Some matters aren't for us to decide, even if we wanted to. So they're going to, drain the ocean? That'd take one hell of a pump. William. Wake up, William. You've dwelled as a fisher among men for too long. Follow me, and I'll return you to the sea. Well, we're at a gas station now. I found myself sitting on a bench by a gas station. A blue minivan stops nearby. A morbidly obese woman who can't be older than 30 rolls her car window, causing the sound of her radio to spill out over the streets. With one movement of her flabby arm, she dumps the contents of her ashtray onto the side of the road before taking off into the night. A dust cloud of putrid, stale ash blows in my directions, making me retch. They don't smell that bad. To think that the fishers lost their livelihood for this. It was destroyed for the low-lives in their ashtrays, the cocksure bastards that think they own the place. Time after time we choose the many over the few, without regard for dignity. The birth of a nation seldom passes without bloodshed. I get up and head back towards the center. The city is pulsating with internal combustion and electricity that permeates everything. It's that sensation again that has been plaguing me over the last few months. It's returned in an unprecedentedly pure form. As if time itself is speeding up, the entire city appears to be moving. The sound of cars and the shapes of houses fuse together to attain a glowing beauty that I have never witnessed before. And the white sky and the gray stones clash in monochrome contrast, forming a collage of textures that jump out from the canvas. The metropolis isn't spatial anymore. It's not a landscape nor an obstacle. It's purely itself, something immeasurable proportions, which can be contained within the palm of a hand. Nothing's hidden. All is curious, interesting, beautiful. The black behind the countless windows has become penetrable, as if it may as well have been illuminated. I'm aware of every single detail of my environment. The tower blocks behind me appear to be breathing as if they were alive. The overpass to my right seems incorruptible in its concrete majesty, like a memorial to all the angels that have taken flight from it. I observe the birds flying through the air, the reeds, the billboards, a trampled Coke can, 2 aspens side by side. The edges of the large cloud cover hanging over me are beginning to gray, shading all its revolutions in patterns of unprecedented stratification. One more sip. Oh yeah, alcohol. Yeah, don't drink, kids, please. Only drink water and soda. And not alcohol. Or bleach. Don't drink bleach. That's a bad idea. I'm silenced by the intensity of it all. I register every breath of wind as it touches my skin. It smells so fresh. The sensory overload makes my head run wild. I can envision myself walking through a botanical garden, a child still. I'm wearing an itchy sweater that I got for my birthday. The colors are pale, like in an old film. I'm horsing around, then I'm quiet again. I seem uncomfortable. We must be in a greenhouse, because there's a large organ pipe cactus next to me. The light shines through my dark blonde hair. I'm looking back at myself, an annoyed expression on my face. Suddenly we drift closer and closer. We collide. Oh no, you can't collide with yourself from the past, dude. That creates a breach in the time continuum. The deafening sound of a car horn shakes me from my dream. I stand there for a while, bent forward, shivering, overwhelmed by an overpowering fatigue. I trip, lose my balance, and stumble away from the street, catching myself against the facade of a building. From where I'm standing, I can see the entire north side of the inner ring. Ahead of me, the USE tower rises, a dark looming colossus that casts a pitch-black silhouette against the clear night sky. For a moment, it's as if I can see stars sparkling around its crown, but then I realize they're warning lights for passing planes. I slide down to the ground where I remain motionless. The pavement feels cold and damp against my tired limbs, but after a while the heat of my body warms up the moisture that has soaked into my clothes, creating a comfortable layer of protection. A trolley bus trundles by its poles, scanning the catenary wires like the feelers of a monstrous insect. The church bells begin to toll. I place my hands against my ears to block out the sound, but involuntarily I hear 3 or 4 strokes. I have no idea what I'll do tomorrow. I'm nodding with fatigue. That's kind of how I feel. I'm just like, I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow. I'm just going to do something. Are you okay? A drunken voice calls out. I look up to see a dark figure of a man trying to talk to me. He has a few friends with him who are watching from a distance. Yeah, no problem, I growl. Can we take you someplace? He asks. His manner of speech, though slurred, betrays genuine concern. His friends are giggling stupidly in the background. I'm okay. You can leave me alone, I reply in a loud, stable voice to make it abundantly clear that there's nothing wrong with me. He looks me over one last time before returning to his friends. Who the fuck was that? I hear a female voice screech. Just a lost sheep, he replies. They burst out in high-pitched shrieks and move on. Just a lost sheep. What? Those voices again. Those piercing howls. Ridicule is always the right response if your world's a comedy. There's nothing serious left. One day, I'll wipe the smiles off their faces. A wind starts to blow. I close my jacket. I look up towards the moon, but the cloud cover's too thick to see anything. The USE tower appears even larger from the gutter. It has a false shine over it, as if it were painted onto the sky. Huh. In the corner of my eye, I see a small hunchbacked figure coming on my way. It's moving in a dwarfish manner. It has a terribly twisted face with wrinkled skin and pointed ears. Frightened, I turn to face it, to realize that it's just a plant, dancing in the wind. Bro, you got scared by a plant? The lack of sleep must be starting to affect me. No shit. You just got scared by a plant. I doze off and picture a cutter boat loaded with grain leaving the harbor under full sail to cast off its golden cargo into the blue depths of the ocean. Exhaust gases. The dream fades away. The bell tolls again. Two lines begin dancing before my eyes, parallel to each other. One is brown, the other is red. They're bent in strange angles. Sometimes they appear together, sometimes they're apart. They're forming patterns, a triangle, a T, but they never touch. Whoa. And then the gray cat from Rybury passes by. He curls down in front of me and speaks in his deep baritone voice. The cat's talking now? It seems to all make sense, what he's telling me. Beautiful, terrible sense. My eyes fill with tears. Yes, yes, I shout at him enthusiastically. That's what I've always wanted to say. But he's gone. What time is it? My brow's wet. I'm awake again, still lying against the facade. Fragments of a starless night are visible through the white clouds. While I'm fighting to stay awake, I try to recall the exact words that the cat spoke to me in my dream, but all I can remember are the two dancing lines, and the feeling that something was absolutely perfectly in place. I search my memory for the remnants of the lost dream. Was it about the university? About Jasmine? About my mother, maybe? The only thing that keeps me coming back are those lines, brown and red, jumping to and fro with flashing lights in the background. enough to drive anyone insane. Could that be the reason I felt so happy? Maybe. I mean, I can't have slept for more than half an hour and feel more tired than ever, probably because you had a sleep cycle get interrupted. Half-heartedly, I attempt to calculate how long I've been out of bed. Probably more than 24 hours. It's a good sign that everything starts anew. Okay, well, I think I was going to leave it here, but then I saw a loud cry. We gotta see this. A loud cry. It's a short exclamation, a single burst of noise without cause or echo. It sounded like it came from close by. I look around, but the streets are empty. Clouds are drifting across the firmament at tremendous speeds. At this pace, a clear sky might come before sunrise. I'm curious to see what kind of moon we have. About to get up from the ground, I drink a little, but then I notice a movement to my left. I freeze. About 3 seconds, I'm staring into the eyes of the most terrifying horror I've ever seen. Is it real this time? It's squatting tensely a few feet away as if it's ready for attack, teeth glistening with mucus. It's a dog. It's only when my eyes have adjusted to the dark that I realize it's just a motorcycle wrapped in a black cover. I'm sorry. Go to bed. Okay, no, we're gonna leave it there. I will see everyone. Man, I cannot talk tonight. Thank you everybody so much for watching. I will see all of you guys in the next video.